Attending. Really appreciate it. This is Glenn Setchfield. I'm the VP of Marketing for DMI. Welcome to our ongoing DMI University webinar series, where we're exploring agent topics related to sales, marketing, and operations that make a real difference in your business. And today is no exception. So this is our second webinar in a special series dedicated to the topic of Social Security. So with over 10,000 people retiring per day, you know how important it is. The idea of becoming a Social Security expert can really open doors and conversations for you. And with DMI and Athene, you can take that opportunity as far as you want to go. So as you know, on our first webinar, as you may know, on our first webinar, Mitch Anderson of Athene, our good friend, took us through a presentation to help you determine if this market is for you. That recording is on our DMI University site under the Social Security topic. So when you go to dmiuniversity.com, there's a topics area. You'll get a drop down and just select Social Security if you want to see that, just to catch up. So today, though, we're going to discuss a powerful means of customizing retirement plans for clients with the Athene Retirement Optimizer. And then following, if you want to take everything to the next level, if you want to benefit yourself with a CSSCS certification designation next to your title, be able to do workshops with that CSSCS title, giving you the notoriety you need to speak to this topic to future clients. We're going to have a live webinar that's going to certify agents into the CSSCS program. So in conjunction with the CSSCS and Andy Robertson, we are going to do that for you. And looking forward to that event. But finally, I just kind of alluded to this, but if you work with DMI, we do put together prepackaged but custom workshops to help you get prospects in your community, so you can talk to them about topics like this. So, but we'll be sure to come back to that towards the end of the webinar. But for now, we're gonna mute and block participant video during the presentation, but please feel free to use the Q&A function in the Zoom portal or the chat function, and we'll answer all your questions at the end. But today we're very lucky to be joined by Mitch Anderson of Athene. Again, we have a great relationship with Athene and Mr. Anderson. And then we're also going to be joined by Andy Robertson of the CSSCS. But I'm going to let Mitch tell you a little bit about Andy before we start today. Thanks so much, Mitch.
Thank you, Glenn. Much appreciated. Really excited about our partnership with DMI and all the time that you guys have put together to create the DMI University. And, you know, as Glenn had said earlier, last time we talked a little bit about why Social Security. 10,000 baby boomers a day turn age 65. They control the money. They're confused. They're not quite sure what they should do when it comes to Social Security. So you have to distinguish yourself as a trusted advisor, building trust. And there's no better way to do that than to help them make that Social Security decision. And then you can earn the keys to the kingdom. Now you have the opportunity to talk about other planning, and whether it be life insurance, long-term care, AUM, annuity sales, and things of that nature. So we're really happy and excited. You may have seen a picture of me about 5 minutes ago up there with the video. That good-looking guy is not Mitch Anderson. That is Andy Robertson. And he is the head of business development and training at the CSSCS. And he's the architect and the brains behind the Athene Retirement Optimizer. And he developed this tool as a great strategy to talk to your client in English. So they just have to make a decision based upon simple numbers. And when they make that decision, you benefit from the sale of an annuity possibly, and or additional assets, which could be assets under management, long-term care, life insurance, whatever it may be. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Andy here. He's going to take over. And unfortunately, I have to leave, guys. I've got to speak at another event. But thank you so much for tuning in. as Glenn had said earlier, we're, due to the demand of people wanting to get this designation and the location of advisors, we have advisors all over the country that are tuning into this webcast that are interested in getting that designation to make themselves stand out. We've gone to a virtual platform for that live event because of that. So stay tuned. Without further ado, Andy, you want to take it away?
Happy to, Mitch. Thanks very much for the great introduction. And thank you, Glenn, for the opportunity to talk with everyone today. Can you all hear me okay? All right.
Sound good.
So what I want to do today as an introduction to the Athene Retirement Optimizers, I really want to talk about philosophically how we view Social Security. So more often than not, from my experience, Social Security is viewed as a standalone income source, and it's really not considered in the broader context as a full-blown retirement income tool capable of delivering a what I'll call a profound impact on the outcome of most retirement income plans. So the Athene Retirement Optimizer, which is the software I developed for Athene, is designed to allow the user, that would be you, to put on display for people in real time a quantitative demonstration of the impact Social Security can have on the overall retirement income plan. And specifically, what the Athene Retirement Optimizer is focused on is helping the user build better, more fortified retirement income plans for significantly less capital. So the thought process is pretty simple. If I can get this PowerPoint to move here. Be slightly stuck. There we go. The thought process is pretty simple. And I stole this from an independent advisor, and he was quoted in Senior Market Advisor several years back. And he said, the fear of dying has been replaced by the fear of living too long. And I think this is the challenge that everybody in retirement income planning faces, is that people are living far longer. And for the first time in history, they're really almost fully responsible for funding their own retirement. So what we wanted to look at through the lens of the Athene Retirement Optimizer is how can taking benefits at different times impact this fear or this concern? And specifically, can we show the impact on a quantitative basis in real time? So you'll see today how we go about doing that. But what you're going to see ultimately is Social Security may be the most dynamic tool you have in the retirement income planning toolbox. Now, to truly appreciate what goes on with Social Security, I'll offer you this. In the software, we ask early on, we only ask a handful of questions, but the very first question we ask is, when do you intend to take Social Security benefits? And of course, the answer we get almost always is early. And when we ask, why are you thinking about taking benefits early? The answers we get are always some variation of, well, I don't know if I'm going to live a long time. I don't know if Social Security is going to be here. But really what they express to us is they're very concerned that they won't be here beyond 70. And if they lived till their 364th day of their 69th year, well, they certainly would have made the wrong decision had they chosen to wait. And I think what I can say without question is that people look at Social Security in a vacuum. And when they do, these are the kind of decisions they make and the things they think about. And again, I know that because 2 questions later, we ask, by the way, we're building a retirement income plan inclusive of Social Security within the software. I know you intend to take Social Security benefits early, but aside from that, how long would you like this retirement income plan to last? Until what age would you like the plan to have a high probability of delivering the income you seek in retirement? And of course, they say, oh, till 90 or 95. So I need this thing to last 25, 30, 35 years. And of course, we immediately take a step back and say, wait a minute, about 30 seconds ago, you were telling me you were convinced your intent was to take Social Security benefits early because you think you won't be here at 70. But when I ask you about a retirement income plan separate from Social Security, you want the retirement income plan to last 25 or 30 or 35 years. So my point in sharing that with you is just to put on display for you just how confused people are about what Social Security really is. I believe that people look at Social Security as a bet, and they don't want to make the wrong bet, right? So their thinking is, I want to take benefits early because what if I don't make it till 70? If I wait till 70, yes, I'll get more, but Then I have to wait till almost 80 to break even. Well, I don't know if I'll be here from 70 until 70 or 80, so I'm going to take benefits early. What they aren't considering, and what nobody's given them the tools to do so with, is the impact that Social Security can have on their number one concern, which is the fear of running out of money. So that's the kind of the genesis of the Athene Retirement Optimizer, and that's really what we're focused on in our work, is to help people understand that when you look at Social Security in a vacuum and you don't consider it across the broader context of retirement income plans, you may not be making the optimal decision for you and your family. But consider this. Move along here. When you look at Social Security, most people are fairly comfortable with the idea that they take benefits early, they're going to incur a reduction. And if they wait, they're going to get more. They may not know exactly what the reduction is and what the increase is, but they know if they take early, they get less. And if they wait, they get more. And they can do a pretty good job, right or wrong, articulating their position of why they want to take it early. As I said, more often than not, it's something to the effect of, well, I don't know if I'll be here at 70. I don't know if Social Security will be here at 70. What I want to do for all of you today is take a minute to explore the other side of the equation. So we know what happens if we take benefits early, right? If somebody has a full retirement age of 66 and they take benefits early, of course, the benefit value that they receive is reduced if they take as early as possible, 62. It's reduced by 25%. Most people, again, are pretty clear on that. They're not really sure what happens if they wait or how the benefit increases are applied and that kind of thing, but they know they'll get more. What most are not aware of is if they take benefits early, they get 25% less. However, if they wait till 70, under current Social Security formulas, they're guaranteed to get at least 76% more. So let me be clear. If you have a full retirement age of 66 and you're looking at taking benefits at 62, and you're wondering how much more you would get at 70 if you, in fact, waited till 70 rather than taking benefits at 62, the answer is, under current Social Security formulas, you're guaranteed to get at least 76% more. It cannot be less, but it could be more. So why do I delve into this? Well, what I want everybody on this call to understand before they start to look at whether or not they want to utilize the Athene Retirement Optimizer is there's a tremendous amount of economic value that Social Security brings to the retirement planning process that's overlooked when you use a simple analysis like what I'll call break even. Because what really people are thinking about, and they may not be telling you, is not that they're going to take benefits early and retire. Most of them, as we know, don't have enough money to retire at 66 or 70, never mind 62. So their intent really isn't to take benefits at 62 and retire. What they're thinking, at least philosophically and theoretically, is they're going to take benefits at 62, but they're going to keep working. And they're going to save their checks that they receive every month like clockwork. And they're going to build a secondary retirement account using those checks. And if they're still here at 70, well, then they've got a secondary retirement account that they can use to match the 76% increase they would have gotten had they simply waited. So like a lot of things in financial planning, that sounds good in theory, but what I want to explore today in practice is how big of a challenge is that? Because what I know is what people are really thinking, at least before they get educated, is I'm going to take benefits early, I'm going to keep working, I'm going to save that money. And this way, in the event I were to die on my 364th day of my 69th year, I didn't give up anything. And if I live beyond 70, well, I've got this secondary retirement account to match the 76% increase anyway. So again, it sounds good in theory, but in practice, we need to look at what's the likelihood that you could actually accomplish that objective. And the first thing that's important to consider, of course, is that if your intent is to take benefits prior to full retirement age, in this case, as early as possible, 62, and keep working, then you're going to be subjected to what's known as the earnings test. So in 2021, if you had more than $18,960 of earned income, for every $2 you're over that threshold, you'd be forced to forfeit $1 in benefits. And I use that term, it's a strong term, but that's exactly what happens. So Social Security withholds checks from you for every dollar or every $2 you're over that threshold, right? So if you're over that threshold by $2, Social Security wants $1 of those $2, and they're actually going to withhold a whole check just to get that dollar. And they're going to withhold as many checks as they need to meet the forfeiture requirement, which again is for every $2 you're over this threshold, you're going to be required to forfeit $1 in benefits. So why do I bring this up? Because I know that what they're thinking is they're going to take benefits early, they're going to keep working, and they're going to save 96 months worth of checks between 62 and 70, and they're going to be able to compete with what Social Security would have given had they waited till 70. Now, again, I want to reiterate, if I haven't said it already, I'm not here to tell everybody they should wait till 70. What I'm here to say today, as we talk about the Athene Retirement Optimizers, we need to be clear on what the other end of the spectrum provides. Most people, when I say people, retirees, prospects, clients, they understand there's a reduction. They really don't understand how big of a challenge what they're thinking really is. But let's look at it a little differently. Let's assume that even if you took benefits early, based upon your earned income, you'd be forced to forfeit $24,000. Well, let's assume let's assume your projected age 62 benefit, even after the reduction, is $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year. The question I have, this thing is not working with me today. The question I have is, how much would you have to earn to really forfeit all $24,000 in benefits? And quite frankly, it's really not a big number. And it's certainly not a big number for the people I know you want to target. So in order to forfeit all $24,000 in benefits, if you took benefits at 62, you'd have to be over the threshold by 48,000 because it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So if I take the 48,000, add it to the threshold, 18,960, in order to create a situation where even though you filed for benefits, you don't receive any checks, you simply have to earn in 2021, $66,960. So if you attained your current age on January 1st, what would happen over the next 4 years, in my example, is you would forfeit roughly $96,000 in benefits. So the reality is it's going to be very difficult for you to execute your plan, take benefits early, keep working, and build a secondary retirement account. So if you're still here at 70, you didn't give anything up between 62 and 70, and you have enough to match that 76% increase, going to be pretty difficult to execute that plan if it's likely that within the first 4 years, you don't get any checks. Not to mention full retirement age is now a moving target, right? So people born after 1954, full retirement age is moving out, right? So if I was born in 1955, full retirement age is 66 and 2 months. If I was born in 56, it's 66 and 4 months, and so on. So ultimately, if you were born in 1960 or later, full retirement age is 67. So the point is, you could be subjected to the earnings test for 5 out of those 8 years in which you're thinking about taking benefits and continuing to work and building this secondary retirement account. Now, some people say, why do you focus so much energy on Social Security? You don't really get paid to provide Social Security advice. And I say, well, that's probably true. You could certainly structure it so that you did. But for many people, no, you're not getting direct compensation for giving Social Security advice or having a significant understanding of the role Social Security can play in building better, more fortified plans for less capital. However, I think you'll see that understanding Social Security a little more completely brings an added dimension to your practice and puts you in a position where Social Security is a true differentiator and allows you to gather more of the assets than maybe you would gather if you didn't leverage Social Security as part of your retirement income planning practice. So the reason specifically I focus on Social Security is because of its ability to combat the erosive effects of inflation, taxes, and longevity on your capital over a 25 or 30-year retirement. So we're transitioning as much of the burden over that 25 or 30-year period to this third-party payer, Social Security, and ultimately over time, putting less pressure on the capital that you manage and that they've been able to accumulate. Now, this next slide references a statistic that you've all seen before. If you've been in this business for any length of time, you'll remember that in the 90s, the messaging around retirement was very favorable, very positive, a lot of beaches and champagne and flowers in that messaging. Today, it's very much a message of fear. This is no different. The National Institute of Retirement Security says 77% of working households are not on pace to meet their retirement savings targets. And you look at that and say, yeah, Andy, we've heard this 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. Agree. I don't share this with you because I think you need to hear this message, and this is a message you haven't heard before. I share this with you because there's something very important as a retirement income planner you need to know, and that is virtually all of the research projects that have given us this type of an output that Americans are crummy savers and the vast majority are underfunded. The vast majority of it assumes everybody takes Social Security benefits early. Now, when you look at what people have done historically, you could argue that's a fair assumption, but within that lies the opportunity, because by assuming everybody takes early, we completely ignore the value that Social Security can bring to the number one concern people have, which is the risk of running out of capital in retirement. So instead of, it's not even marginalizing Social Security, we minimize Social Security, but within that is the opportunity for you, if you embrace the complexity of Social Security and tools like the Athene Retirement Optimizer, to deliver a better, more fortified result for your clients, simply because you leverage a different strategy, not because you picked the right stock or the right bond or the right crypto, not because you were lucky, but because you leveraged the right strategy and you leveraged all the tools in the toolbox when building your retirement income plans for your clients. Yeah. So in terms of some of the questions that have come up, I'll make this commitment. I will answer all the questions before we leave, but yes, we'll get you access to all the PowerPoints and everything we talk about today. So the point of this really is just to say that within this kind of narrative that's been created over the last 20 or so years is a tremendous amount of opportunity if you embrace the complexity of Social Security and make it a core part of what you do. So if you really want to be a retirement income specialist and you really want to use it as a way to differentiate yourself from the competition, then embrace the complexity of Social Security, take advantage of the educational platform that we've delivered, or we do deliver through our partnership with Athene, and the Athene Retirement Optimizer tool, which is truly a unique tool in the retirement income planning world. So again, people will talk to me about why Social Security. Well, again, think about it. Here we are in 2022, and for many people today, Social Security is the only form of income they have at their disposal that's paid for life on a guaranteed basis, right? And the higher of that, those two benefits are paid for the life of the surviving spouse. Usually it's the other way around. It's a smaller benefit. Not to mention, Social Security is automatically inflation adjusted. Now, the media's had a field day beating up Social Security and the CPI index that it's linked to, as if to suggest there's no value in it. But the truth is, if Social Security wasn't automatically providing a cost of living adjustment on the income that they deliver, where would that cost of living adjustment have to come from? If there was any discernible inflation, it would have to come out of the capital that you manage. And again, it puts more stress on that capital over time. Transferring that burden on the Social Security means less stress and greater likelihood we can preserve some, if not all, of that capital over time. The other piece that we're going to talk about in a minute is it's highly tax efficient. Social Security is taxed differently than any other source of income that anyone has ever had before having Social Security. And until they actually collect Social Security, most people cannot completely comprehend or understand the tax efficiencies Social Security is afforded under provisional income, but it's highlighted in the Athene Retirement Optimizer. We'll talk about in our case study today. And then the last thing I'll say on this is, unlike some of the financial institutions we learned in 2008 were too big to fail, that they were so systemically important to the overall economy and financial markets that we couldn't let them fail. Social Security is backed by a government promise. This is the primary income source for 76 million boomers. This is the epitome of too big to fail. I believe, for what it's worth, that Social Security has become a political pawn and is used in election years to get votes. But at the end of the day, there are a number of things that can be done to fortify Social Security beyond what they've done already, and that would be very easy to do. And I fully expect that that would happen, because allowing Social Security to collapse, which is really not anything any credible source is saying is going to happen, would be catastrophic. So it's just not an option. But it's a really powerful income tool. And when you think about what it would take to compete with what this tool can provide, it really starts to look a little different. So let's say we have a husband and wife whose primary insurance amounts, which is their retirement income benefit at full retirement age, are $2,650 for him and $2,000 for her. And what they're contemplating is, instead of taking benefits at 66 and getting $4,650 into the household, they're going to take early, take a 25% permanent reduction for life, but they're going to collect early and they're going to get $34.88 a month. And let's pretend the earnings test didn't exist for a second. What most people are thinking, certainly before they know about the earnings test, is we'll take this $34.88, we'll take it every month, we'll save it like clockwork, and if we're still here at 70, again, we'll use that to match the increase that Social Security would have automatically provided if we had simply waited. Well, let's put some numbers behind that and say, how much more is 76% more 8 years from now? Well, it's an additional $2,651 a month 8 years from now, or $31,812 per year. So for those of us working in this space in 2022, and for the last couple decades, I think we all know you have to have a pretty significant pile of cash to deliver this kind of income with any reasonable probability of success. So what I want to do for you, and then ultimately we use these in public workshops that we do as well, is help people understand just how tall of an order this is. So let's say for a minute, you took the 3488 a month they could get at 65 and you saved it like clockwork. What would you have to accumulate between 62 and 70 to match this increase with any real probability of success? So to answer that question, we want to fall back on a credible process. I call it safe withdrawal rate research, which there's an abundance of. I'm sure you're all familiar with the concept. Bengen came out, gave us the 4% safe max in the early 90s, said you could take 4% gross. You could take it, you could increase it by 2.5% per year to combat inflation. And there was an 80% probability that 30 years from now, you'd still get one more check, right? That it would actually last 30 years. Now, the problem with Bengen's study, and by the way, it was supported by Trinity several years later, the problem I have with it is it aims to achieve an 80% probability of success. I believe that Social Security, me personally, has a 100% probability of success in delivering that 76% increase. In fact, it could be more, it can't be less. So I think this number is a little overstated. So the first thing I did is I went back and said, what if we wanted a 90+% probability of success? What impact would that have on this gross safe withdrawal rate? So it takes it, for what it's worth, from 4 to 3.4. And then I wanted to know what the net number was, because the Bengen study, the Trinity study, they made no assumption for fees. They leave it up to you to do that. I said, let's assume 100 basis points in fees in total off the 3.4. That takes us to a net in your pocket safe withdrawal rate of 2.4%. And I say in your pocket because that's the number I have to know. How much will I have to have on hand at a net 2.4% to match the increase that I'm effectively guaranteed if I simply wait till 70? Well, the increase is 31,812. And the net in your pocket safe withdrawal rate, from my perspective, if you want a 90+% probability of success over 30 years, is 2.4. So the capital requirement that you'd have to have, but the capital requirement is, in order to meet those objectives, 30 years with a 90+% probability of success, is $1.3 million. The question is, if you saved every check $34.88 a month like clockwork, what would you have to earn as a compounding annual growth rate over that 96-month period to actually accumulate this much capital? And the answer is a significant amount. You'd have to get a compounding annual growth rate just shy of 30%. And if you were lucky enough to do that, that's really all you'll be, and I think we could all agree, you would have succeeded in doing nothing more than matching the minimum 76% increase you already guaranteed. So again, I'm not here to try and convince you that everybody should wait till 70. My goal is to get you as the advisors to look at the other extreme. Like, we're all pretty comfortable with what it means if you take early, but now I just want to be clear on what it is you're giving up and what it takes to match what you're giving up if you opt not to take benefits, if you opt not to wait and take benefits early, but what it would take to actually match that increase. So think about this for a minute. Not only are you guaranteed 76% at 70 over what you could have got, 76% more at 70 or what you could have gotten at 62, but you've heard me say a couple of times that that's a minimum increase. It cannot be less, and it could be more. Well, how could it be more? It could be more because once you reach that first year entitlement, age 62, whether you're taking benefits or not, if a cost of living adjustment is declared, your Social Security benefit, your primary insurance amount, which is your retirement income benefit at full retirement age, that PIA is going to be adjusted on a compounded basis. Every year, a cost of living adjustment is declared whether you're taking benefits or not. So let's look at what that would mean. Let's say I met you in 2013, and you said, Andy, if I wait till 70, how much more am I going to get? And I would say, well, you're going to get at least 76% more, cannot be less, could be more. How could it be more? Well, every year that a cost of living is declared, your primary insurance amount is going to be adjusted accordingly. And then when you attain 70, the 32% delayed retirement credit is going to be stacked on top of that cost of living adjusted PIA. This thing's really sensitive today. So what did they actually end up with? Well, the increase they knew in 2013 was going to be at least 76% more. What did they end up with? They ended up with 108% more. So just think about that for a minute. As I explained a moment ago, to match a 76% increase, you'd have to have a compounded annual growth rate over that period of time of just shy of 30% to match a 76% increase. I think you'd all agree that that's highly unlikely that you would do that. So what are the chances you'd match this increase? And again, my point is just to get you to look at the other extreme so that we can help people have better conversations around Social Security and its impact on the biggest concern they have, which is the threat and risk of running out of money. Now, I can tell you, once you introduce the earnings test into the conversation, most folks are open to a broader dialogue around retirement income planning and specifically the role Social Security can play in building better, more fortified plans. Once they realize they're not going to get their hands on the checks between 62 and FRA, which could be as many as 5 years, the conversation takes on a whole different tone. So let's look real quick at a case study on how this kind of would unfold, and you'll see how the Athene Retirement Optimizer comes into play. So let's say we have the same couple now. They've opted not to take benefits at 62, but they want to retire at 66, and they want to understand how much capital would be required if we retired at 66, had an income goal of $85,000, had $800,000 in retirement assets, and our Social Security income was the same $2,650 for him and $2,000 for a $4,650 for the household. Will $800,000 be enough to meet our plan's objectives? The plan's objectives would be to last for 30 years with a 90+% probability of success. And this is where the Athene Retirement Optimizer would come in. So we plug in their current age, we plug in their desired retirement age, which are one and the same, in this case, 66. Would plug in their primary insurance amounts, $2,650 for him and $2,000 for her. If there are any other forms of income, we'll plug that in as well. In this case, for simplicity's sake, we'll assume there's no other forms of guaranteed income. And as a result, we can then establish the permanent income gap. So what is the gap if we take Social Security benefits at 66? The gap would be 55.8, right? Or pardon me, the gap would be 29.2 because the income goal is 85,000. Social Security is going to provide 46.50 a month or 55.8. So the question we're really going to ask is, will $800,000 be enough to meet the objectives of this plan to deliver $29,200 year one, increase it by 2.5% every year, beginning at age 67, and have it last over 30 years with a 90% probability of success? The Athene Retirement Optimizer is going to look at all that and tell you exactly how much capital it would require for that plan to meet the plan's objectives. And then we're going to look at what if we took benefits at a different time. So in this simple example, we'll look at what if they take benefits at 70 rather than 66? So retired 66, but take benefits at 70. Will that change the plan's overall capital requirement? So everything starts in this example with knowing the gap. So if they take benefits early at FRA and Social Security provides 55.8, then the gap is 29.2. So the question is $800,000 enough to deliver the 29.2 over the next 30 years, increasing it by 2.5% per year and delivering that plan with a 90% probability of success? To answer that question, we're going to follow the same credible process we looked at earlier. We're going to divide that gap, that 29.2, by that same net in your pocket safe withdrawal rate of 2.4. And we learned that the capital requirement for this plan to meet its objectives 30 years with a 90+% probability of success is $1.2 million. So this couple does not have $1.2 million. They have 800,000. Are they close? No, they're not even close. They're woefully underfunded. They need 50% more capital than they have. Now, sadly, this is what most people do. They move forward with this plan, even though they only have 800,000. They take benefits at FRA and they go with a strategy of hope. They hope that things don't go the way they've historically gone, and they hope that things go differently for them and they go really well and they never wake up penniless. But that isn't how it has to be. And what the other things are that they've considered is delaying retirement, reducing their income expectations in retirement, working part-time, becoming more aggressive with their positioning of the $800,000, save more. But none of those things are really exciting for anybody. The reality is, through the Athene Retirement Optimizer, we can show them that maybe you don't have to do any of those things. Maybe you just need to take benefits at a different time to get all the puzzle pieces to fit together just the way you want them to. So for instance, if you retired at 66 but didn't take benefits until 70, once benefits kick in, the initial gap would be $11,000 $344, but we're going to inflate that by 2.5% for 4 years, because the reality is they're actually not going to look to close that gap until they take benefits at 70. So the inflation adjusted gap when they attain age 70 and Social Security benefits begin is significantly smaller, 12,522. And the safe withdrawal rate is considerably higher because we're 4 years in the 30-year time horizon. And what those two things together mean is the amount of capital required once Social Security begins to close the gap with a 90+% probability of success drops dramatically from $1.2 million to $460,000. Now, the fundamental difference between the first strategy, the early strategy, and the second strategy, the later strategy, is they're still retiring at 66. So there's an additional consideration here if they take benefits later, and that is they're going to have to self-fund for the 4 years between 66 and 70. So assuming the goal was 85,000 and we inflated it by 2.5% per year, during that timeline, they need to use $352,964 of their own money, assuming they quit working and it was their only source of income was their capital. They need to use $352,964 of their capital to cover what we call the bridge period. And our software calculates this for you to the day. And it shows you exactly what the capital requirement would be to cover the bridge period. And then what is the income or what is the capital required to close the remaining gap when Social Security benefits begin, in this case at age 70. We already established it's 460, 368. Again, we revisit that down here. But the total capital requirement now for the laters drops from $1.2 million to $813,000. So think about what just happened here. We took the same income goal, the same time horizon, the same inflation assumption, the same portfolio construct, the same probability of success objective, the same PIAs. Everything is exactly the same. The only difference is when and how we took Social Security benefits, and the impact is profound. This is just math. The only thing anybody could argue with is the net in your pocket safe withdrawal rate. And I can promise you, they can argue till they're blue in the face. The numbers are not going to change significantly enough for this not to be or have a profound impact on the outcome. This couple goes from woefully underfunded with, quite frankly, a 50% probability of success, not even close to the 90 they seek, to nearly a 90+% probability of success because they need 800 or they need 813 and they have 800. So on top of that, not only are they delivering the income for almost the amount of capital they have and delivering it with almost that 90% probability of success people seek, but they do it with a better strategy, not with any luck. But by the time they're 70, you're going to see that the later strategy, when the Social Security benefits kick in at 70, is also highly tax efficient. So by the time they're 70, thanks to inflation, the 85,000 swelled to 93,824. We're going to assume the Social Security benefits increased by 2.5% as well. And here's what happens. So the laters have 32% more guaranteed income because they waited until 70, right? Their gap is considerably, their fully taxable income gap, we're assuming they're funding it with a fully taxable IRA, is considerably smaller because Social Security is doing so much more of the lifting. But look at this, the taxable Social Security benefit is $13,797. So just so we're clear, on $81,302 in Social Security income, only $13,797 of it's taxable. If I add that to the fully taxable IRA distribution, we're assuming the $12,522 is coming out of the fully tax infested $800,000 IRA. The total taxable income for the laters is $26,319. For the earlies, it's $54,404. Now, one would say, geez, I'm surprised that, almost $94,000 of income and only $54,000 is taxable. But this is mind-boggling for most people. What you're looking at here is not only a plan that goes from woefully underfunded to effectively fully funded, but it's also highly tax efficient. And you should know that the capital requirement is not dependent on the tax efficiency. It's an added benefit. It plays no role in the capital calculation. So kind of to close this out for you guys, the tax piece is really an important element to any educational platform you may use, including the Athene Retirement Optimizer. Our experience, which is pretty vast, tells us that if you ignore the weeds of taxation, they don't view you as different. We did this dozens and dozens of times where we ran workshops with and without the tax breakdown. And the scenarios, or I should say the workshops we ran with the tax breakdown, saw 50% more people respond to our call to action. So we are confident that getting into this is a critical differentiator and allows them to see even more so how powerful Social Security is as a planning tool. So where most of the misunderstanding around Social Security taxation begins, in my opinion, is these thresholds. So most people are aware that if they file jointly, that if they have more than $32,000 of Social Security income, that's the number they think they're looking at. This number is, in their minds, related to Social Security income. Then 50% of their benefits taxed. Now people say, you know, if I have more than 44,000 Social Security income, then 85% of my benefit is taxed. So where's the misunderstanding? Well, a couple of things. Number one, it's not a flat tax, it's a progressive tax. But number two, the actual income value that's compared to these thresholds is not your Social Security income, but your provisional income. And provisional income is this formula right here. So under provisional income, the IRS looks at 100% of your modified adjusted gross income. You guys may be familiar with this, but for those who aren't, modified adjusted gross income is just a fancy way of saying all your earned, unearned, and tax-free dividend income, right? So even though tax-free dividend income is income taxable, it is considered in the formula for determining how much your Social Security benefit is taxed, and it's considered at 100%. Where the real magic happens under the provisional income formula is Social Security. It's only considered at 50 cents on the dollar, or 50%. So watch what happens when you understand provisional income. Let me just jump ahead and show you. So let's look at the earlies. The earlies, by the time they're 70, their Social Security is projected to be 61,593. And of course, the original income gap, 29.2, has swelled to 32,231 thanks to inflation 4 years later. And we're assuming that this gap is being fully funded by the $800,000 IRA. So how much is their provisional income? Well, it's half the Social Security plus all of the gap money that's coming out of the IRA, gives a provisional income number of $63,028. Well, and again, this is all highlighted in the Athene Retirement Optimizer. What happens, take provisional income, subtract that first threshold, 32,000, and anything over that first threshold is counted at 50%. Then you repeat that, take the same provisional income value, take the second threshold, anything over that value is counted at 35%. You add these two numbers together, and that tells you what the total taxable Social Security income is. Now, you can probably start to recognize that when these numbers change and Social Security becomes a bigger percentage of the whole, then things get even more tax efficient, right? Because now it's not 60,000 Social Security income, it's 80,000. And it's not $30,000+ of fully taxable income, it's only 12,522. So what happens? Even though they have more guaranteed income, because Social Security is a significantly larger percentage of the total, and you take half of it, or 40,651, and all of the considerably smaller gap income, fully taxable gap income, the provisional income number, even though they've got 32% more guaranteed income, the provisional income number is considerably smaller. So again, all they do is simple math, take that provisional income number, subtract the first threshold, anything over that number is counted at 50%. Then you repeat that, take the provisional income number, take the second threshold, and then take 35% of anything over that number. And now you have a total taxable Social Security for the laters of 13,797. So just so we're clear, the total taxable income is the taxable Social Security found here and here, plus, in this case, the fully taxable IRA distribution. And these two numbers together equal the taxable income, 54 versus 26. Well, again, not only are we delivering the plan for significantly less capital and taking them from woefully underfunded with a significant likelihood of failure to effectively fully funded, but now we're going to deliver this plan in a way that many would consider to be income tax favorable. I'll call it income tax free. In 2021, the standard deduction for a married couple filing jointly, and anybody who fits that profile is entitled to at least a standard deduction of 27.8. Well, 27.8 would wipe out dollar for dollar that $26,319 of taxable income. So what does that mean? Not only have we delivered the plan for $400,000 less capital, but the plan is now income tax free. So that, again, that's not a feature, that's just an added benefit. But when you look when you actually look at these two plans side by side and you say, all right, in order for me to determine which decision is the right decision for me, through the Athene Retirement Optimizer, we want to focus people on what we call the 4 areas of concern. So the percentage of the income that's guaranteed, the percentage that's automatically inflation adjusted without market exposure, the amount that's considered taxable, and then last, but maybe in many instances, most importantly, what's the survivor income look like? So the laters have 87% more guaranteed income. They have 87% of the total income is guaranteed. 87% is inflation adjusted. We just saw the tax piece. And on top of that, the survivor benefit obviously is 32% higher as well. So I think we could say unequivocally that, the later strategy is a far better strategy than the early strategy. And virtually no one would consider the later strategy if it weren't for having the right tools and the ability to quantify the impact like we're able to do the Athene Retirement Optimizer. Now, what the Athene Retirement Optimizer will allow you to do on top of that is show how you can make this plan even better. How can you make the plan better? Well, up till now, we've looked at safe withdrawal rates as kind of the backbone of this analysis, and we've used safe withdrawal rates to help us determine how much capital do we need to close the permanent income gap once Social Security benefits begin. So for the laters, we needed 460,000 to close that gap, which was considerably less than the earlies because Social Security was doing more of the lifting. And we had the bridge capital of 352,964. So the total capital requirement was 813,331. The question is, how can we make it better? We can make it better by embracing the products that we all believe in. And DMI does a tremendous job distributing, and that is fixed indexed annuities with lifetime income benefit riders on them. There is nothing that brings more leverage to the retirement income planning table than an FIA with a living benefit rider on it. So here we are, we can do the same job using an Athene annuity to deliver that $12,522 on a fully contractual guaranteed basis. And the product I'm referencing here also provides or has a performance-based chassis. So that means not only are we going to deliver the $12,522 on a fully guaranteed basis, but every time the crediting rate or the net crediting rate is positive, we're going to see the check go up. So not only is this product going to allow us to deliver the $12,522 for considerably less capital than if we wanted to self-fund the plan rather than use an annuity, it's also going to allow us to have an opportunity to combat inflation as well, thanks to the plan design. So the 250 plus the 352, the bridge capital doesn't change because we're still advocating for taking benefits later. Now the total capital is 602,964. So we looked at taking benefits at 66 and self-funding. We looked at taking benefits at 70 and self-funding. Now we're saying, what if we took benefits at 70 and instead of self-funding or self-insuring, we took advantage of the leverage afforded only to an insurance product like an annuity? How would that change things? And they go from effectively fully funded, now they're overfunded. They only need $602,964 to fund this plan. So at the end of the day, we've completely and profoundly changed the situation for these people. And we didn't have to pick the right stock, the right bond, the right crypto. We didn't have to write them a check. All we did is leverage all the tools in the toolbox more effectively. And here's what I mean. If they move forward with this plan, the earliest plan, they need $1.2 million to be fully funded. They only have 800,000. So you're going to have to write them a check for 416,667 if you want to give them the same experience with this strategy as the strategy that we're recommending, right? Because that's what they need just to get to fully funded. Then you're going to have to give them an additional $197,036. Why? Because under the optimized plan, taking benefits later and funding the income gap with an annuity, we only need $602,964. That means they have $197,000 they can spend any way they like. So to give the earlies the same experience, a fully funded plan, and $197,000 of capital they can spend any way they like, somebody needs to write them a check for $613,703. So when people talk to us about what is your advisor gamma, what is your advisor alpha in the face of Reg BI, what is it that makes you the person who's okay to recommend the products you recommend, to charge the fees you charge? Here it is. Your plan is fully quantifiable and fully supported by the Athene Retirement Optimizer from now to the end of time. I'll close it out with this. The only pushback that we get is around liquidity. That annuities aren't liquid. Again, I'm going to come back to this. When it comes to financial planning, a lot of things sound good in theory, but in practice, things are very different. So let's just kind of compare the two plans from a tactical perspective. So one could argue that if you went with the earliest plan and took benefits at 66, that it's more liquid, because let's assume you're putting it on the capital markets, hence the use of the safe withdrawals to determine the capital requirement. So yes, I suppose theoretically it's fully liquid, but practically and tactically, it's not liquid at all, because we have to commit 100% of the assets they've accumulated. And that's $800,000, which we know is only 66% of the $1.2 million they need. There's nothing left for discretionary spending. There's certainly nothing left for legacy. So yes, in theory, this is liquid. I suppose you could invade this highly underfunded and unstable retirement income plan anytime you need more than your monthly check. But of course, you'd only serve to destabilize this plan even further. Our plan, yes, our plan has an annuity, and the annuity has a surrender charge, but in return for dealing with the surrender charge, we're able to deliver the plan for considerably less capital and take them from underfunded to overfunded, because we only need $602,964 to deliver the plan at a fully funded basis. That's 75% of the capital. There's another $197,000 we can invest any way they like. We can put it all in a discretionary account, and we could say an equivalent. You can spend $197,000 before you ever have to invade this fully funded, fully tax efficient, and fully inflation adjusted plan. That looks a lot better than this plan, which says if you invade this for anything more than your monthly check, you're going to destabilize a plan that's already woefully underfunded. Our plan has products in it that have surrender charges, but from a tactical perspective, our plan is far more liquid and flexible and provides more control than any plan that they might come up with on the truly asset on only the asset allocation side. So I'll close it out with this. If I've done my job this afternoon, I've convinced you of what I believe, which is the Athene Retirement Optimizer allows you to put on display in real time for any prospects and clients that more often than not, the issue as it relates to retirement planning and retirement savings has far less to do with how good of a job they've done saving money and far more to do with who they work with and the strategies that those people employ. So how important is a specialist in the retirement income planning space? You can judge for yourself, but I believe wholeheartedly that the difference between ending up on the right side of this equation and the wrong side of this equation has far less to do with how much the people we want to work with save, and far more to do with the people they work with and whether the people they work with are qualified to give the kind of advice they need to make this plan work. So the Athene Retirement Optimizer is a powerful tool, requires a handful of inputs, and in real time can show the people the impact of the tool and the strategy that you are now or would be in possession of. Here's a quick look at the Athene Retirement Optimizer output. In closing, I'll just say, would love to work with anybody and everybody on this call. I want to thank Glenn and Mitch for the opportunity to talk to you. Would love to talk about not only the Athene Retirement Optimizer, but how do you make yourself a specialist at the same time when you decide you want to make Social Security a broader part of what we do or what you do on a daily basis. So with that, Glenn, I'll kick it back to you. I hope that delivered what you were looking for, and I'm really excited about working with you and the team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was fantastic. And, and that's just a little bit of a taste of what you can get on March 23rd. And, to Andy's point, it's like, people are looking for this kind of specialization, this kind of insight. So it's not just about that certification, that title next to your name, but it's definitely, it helps the consumer to understand who they're dealing with and how to build trust. And, it's like Mitch said, it's kind of the key to the castle. And, together, Andy, Mitch, and I were putting this program together where, DMI is offering, the ability for you to do workshops. We can market them on your behalf in your community and get derrieres and seats, so to speak. And, but then Andy is providing that certification, the opportunity for the certification. And, Mitch with Athene's ARO and the many pages of materials available out there, consumer approved case studies, consumer approved PowerPoint presentations, that March 23rd CSSCS webinar ends up looking like a pretty good value. So go to this dmiuniversity.com/social security. So when you go to DMI University, just go to topic areas, social security, and you'll find this listing for the this upcoming webinar for the CSSCS. Click on this register today, and it's going to take you to the Zoom registration. But so just be aware, it's a two-step process. So you want to get signed up for the webinar itself, but then also get signed up through CSSCS for their materials and training and the certificate. But we will also send out some emails tomorrow with some of this information in there, and then also a recording of today's webinar. Beyond that, I think we had a couple questions. They may have largely been answered though.